Welcome to the Dropship Podcast, where you'll learn how to build and grow a high-ticket dropshipping business and hear stories from successful e-commerce entrepreneurs. Let's kick this thing off. Hey, welcome back to the Dropship Podcast. This is another Tactical Tuesday episode, and we're back with part 3 of contacting high-ticket dropshipping suppliers. Again, this episode was pulled from our Patreon podcast, which you can find at patreon.com/dropshippodcast. All old episodes are absolutely free, and any new episode is just $5. We'd love to have you over there. But if you've been listening intently for the last 2 weeks, here's part 3. Even more gold nuggets in here on contacting suppliers. I hope you've enjoyed this. We'd love your feedback in the Facebook group. Again, thanks for being here and enjoy part 3.
Yeah. So yeah, totally. I mean, I can remember we put on a supply that was like that. They were like, every order you place has to be like $2,000 or higher. Like not even the first one, like every single one. And they had a whole bunch of $1,000, $500 products, which actually are commonly used together. So what do? We only put bundles of those products on the site. We don't sell any of them. You can't buy them individually from that website. We just put bundles on, which actually is the point, right? They work better together. So, we just made like $3,000 bundles of these products, which is better for your business, right? And it gets you across the line with that supplier. And at some point, that business will transition their way. They'll become a good seller for that company, and they'll say, all right, so can we now start actually dropshipping these things separately if we want to? And guaranteed they'll say yes at that point, right?
Marie Forleo says everything is figure outable. And it's true, right? There's always a way around this. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm bombarded. In fact, I have one sitting right here. I'm bombarded with these credit card offers in America of 0% until January 1st, 2022. That's 9 months, right? And so am I willing to put the $2,500 minimum order on here and make minimum payments for the next 9 months at 0% interest? 100%, right? Like, that's figure outable. I can float this for 9 months and play the long game and know that I'll get there eventually. Or I can negotiate with them, or stay in contact with them if I got to know. Like, none of these are no's. I promise you, there's not a single hard no out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all comes back to the fact that everybody deep down wants to achieve something, right? It goes back to what I said earlier. You and your supplier, the supplier you're calling, you have like a mutual end goal here. Honestly, it's that both of you want to build a business, make money, and you want each other to be successful because that's good for both of you. So it's really just a case of being prepared to iron out the crinkles in making that happen. But you got to keep it in mind, at the end of the point, you and your suppliers want the same things, right? And it's very hard for two people who actually truly want the same thing to disagree. So,
but you have to go in knowing it's a human whose phone rings every day, all day.
Oh yeah.
From Joe Bag of Donuts calling to try to flip their stuff, right? Like, God bless Gary Vee. I'm as big a fan as anybody out there, but he has convinced the younger generation to hustle, and they do it, right? They're not afraid to call them up and try, and if they get a no, they're going to call 10 other ones that day, right? And so you have to know Sally or Sandy or Cindy or Bill or whoever's answering the phone. They've gotten your phone call every day since they've been there, and they have 10 of those emails in their inbox. And you have to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, well, you have to differentiate yourself, and you will, if you follow all the other things we're going to talk about. But the other side of that is also persistence, because what Joe Bag of Donuts is not going to do is call the supplier who told them no the first time a second time or a third time. Persistence is key here as well, right? And this is like sales 101. If you look at sales statistics, I'm not saying we're selling here, but it's a close enough thing. If you look at sales statistics, particularly for high ticket sales, like cold selling on the phone, right? A majority of conversions do not happen on the first phone call to a prospect. They actually happen on the third plus phone call. That's where the most money in sales is made. And that's why the best salespeople are the ones who follow up until you get the result you want. Even if that takes you 8 calls. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have to go that extreme with high-ticket dropshipping, because you're not actually selling something. There's no financial commitment here as such or anything like that. So the barrier is actually a bit lower. But you have to that can be just persistence, perseverance. I mean, in business anyway, that's what separates people who are successful from people who, cave at the first hurdle. But the same goes with suppliers. I mean, have the first call. If you don't get across the line, that's okay. Call them again. Leave it open. End that call a little bit open and tell them you're going to call them back. You want to have another chat about it. Come back, have another chat. Follow up. But, if you, I think that's a big key to it. You just got to take your time with it.
Well, I think there's some no's you'll get that persist, right? And so I can picture some that I didn't get for a long time, and I want to talk about some tips to help you on the first call, but I want to talk long term. If there's a brand out there that you've been trying, you've been calling, go when they come back, go to the conferences for your industry and meet that person in person. And I promise you things will change drastically. That was a very pivotal point in one of the businesses I was in where we exploded, was going to the show for that year in Orlando, where a lot of them are, or in Vegas. But we went around and just shook hands and introduced ourselves, and meeting someone and building a real relationship really changes the game.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely I've had suppliers like that as well. You should never be afraid if it's possible for you to go and actually meet your suppliers, right? Even ones you haven't got a yes from yet. I can think of on my first business, there were suppliers who were based out of Sydney, which was the city I lived near at the time. They had a retail storefront. I literally just rocked up in their retail storefront and said, "Oh, hey, is the manager around? Can I speak to the manager?" Shook his hand, introduced myself, stood there looking at their products and had a chat. And almost all of those always resulted in a yes. And yeah, trade shows for sure. That's an easy one. I mean, if you can get in front of a human, it's so much, and look them in the eye. Getting a yes it's kind of more confronting for a lot of people, but it's hard to get a no. It's so much harder for somebody to tell you no face to face than it is on the phone, right?
But you're right. Yeah. It takes some big cojones, man. I remember being scared S-less, right? Knees shaking, feeling like I was calling Sarah Peavy back in third grade. I remember calling her, pacing in my laundry room, and just so scared to push it. And she said no, by the way. And the same thing happened when I called suppliers. I remember that feeling, and believe me, in person, it was even more. I was working with someone today on a consulting call who, man, he's doing extremely, he is right on the precipice of breaking out. He's put in a lot of the work, and it just, time needs to catch up to him. And he really lacked confidence today. And I sat there for a minute and realized, I remember being there. I remember really, in the beginning, you really got to step out of your shell in order to realize you can do all of this stuff. And so that the in-person stuff takes that to a whole nother level.
No, it does. And look, I mean, if somebody's listening to this episode and they're very new in the process, I mean, us talking about it's going to probably makes it sound a lot easier than it feels for you. So I don't think anything we're saying here needs to take away from the fact that this is a hugely challenging exercise for most people on the phone, in face-to-face, whatever. I mean, it is, particularly the first time out. This is kind of the first time you're really putting yourself out there, right? As your business, you're going out of, you're not just sitting there doing research and looking at spreadsheets and websites and stuff. You're actually getting out there. And so, yeah, it's hugely challenging. But, just come back to the why are you doing this in the first place thing, right? I mean, that's always what through circumstances. And you're going to have so many challenges as you go through business, right? So that are going to make you feel uncomfortable, that are going to take you out of your comfort zone. So you got to jump this hurdle one way or the other. You just can't be successful if you don't, right? There's no way around it. So I always just think back to if I've got a good reason for being here and doing this in the first place, that's what pushes me through. If I sit here and think, wow, when I did it the first time, I mean, I was in a life situation that I found I hated. Right? I didn't like it. That's why I was trying to start a business, to get out of that. So I just sat there and literally thought, if I can't do this, I'm going to be sitting here in 20 years and another 20 years of this shit. How the fuck am I going to feel? I'm going to feel like killing myself. I can't afford not to make these calls, right? I've just got to do it. right? Because the alternative sucks so much more than making a phone call, right? And that's literally, and I'll still do that today. Like if I've got an uncomfortable business situation, I'll be like, if I can't push myself through this, I'm going to go broke and I'm going to have to go and get a job. And I can't face that.
Yeah, I think
I literally cannot face that.
Me either. I think Tony Robbins explains it well in that it's pain and pleasure, right? And so, or which one is more painful? So,
yeah.
Is it more painful? And I'll use my own situation. Was it more painful for me to have to go to work 10 hours a day, 4 days a week at a job I hated, or is it more painful to just kiss the girl and make that call? And get the suppliers on board, right? And then you're only going to lead to the next hurdle where it's like, oh shit, now I got to upload these products, or oh shit, now I need to figure out Google Ads, or oh shit, I had fraud happen on my store, or whatever it is, right? It's oh shit's going to keep happening, and so you have to decide what is more painful, and when whichever one is less painful is the one you're going to do. So if you think going back to your job for the next 40 years is less painful, you're probably not going to make these calls. But I would encourage you to push through it. Hey, just want to jump in here real quick and say if you're loving this show, the number one thing you can do to help us out is simply go to Spotify or iTunes or whatever you're listening on and smash that follow button, that subscribe button, and leave us a review. It really does help us reach more people. And if you've got a friend that you know should be listening to this, send the podcast over to them. We'd love to have them join us as well. And real quick, 2 quick resources I have for you. If you want to join us in our free Facebook group, you can find that at facebook.com/groups/Dropship Tribe, or just search the Dropship Tribe. And we also have a paid version of this podcast where you can get even more of John and I and longer form content. You can find that on Patreon at patreon.com/Dropship Podcast. All right, back to the show.
You know, as well, like with supplier calls, like always think like what's people getting like all or nothing thinking with this, right? They're like, oh my God, if the supplier doesn't approve me, this is never going to work. It's all going to fall apart. Like at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that can happen when you make a supply call? They say no. Okay, so what does that mean? You're going to call the next supplier. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's actually nothing bad happens when somebody says no. Right? Yeah, you might feel a little bit disappointed. Sure, whatever. So what? You're not going to feel that disappointed anyway. It's not going to be that bad. You're so you're going to go on to the next supplier. They say no. Well, you're going to go on to the next one. What if they all say no? Well, you're back to the drawing board. You're going to come up with a new market idea, and you're going to go back and call some more suppliers. You're going to get enough yeses sooner or later to have a viable business. So, like, there's nothing wrong with people saying no anyway. Yeah, you want to have the right conversation. You want to get as many people across the line as possible. But who gives a fuck if someone says no? You're not losing any money here. You've got absolutely nothing, no skin in the game here at this point, really, other than your pride. And, you know, if you're that protective of your pride, then once again, that's not a good place to be as a business owner because you're going to lose a lot. Right, over time. So like just that's the other thing I do. I'm just like, well, like, I mean, might be a bit of an Australian thing, but I'm kind of like a who gives a fuck guy. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, nothing bad's going to happen if someone says no.
Yeah, I've dealt on some inner work for the last couple of years, doing some deep dives, and I can have some empathy for some people out there who have been told they couldn't do something before, or have gotten some no's in hard situations before, and for them they have to relive those moments by getting a no. Right? Still, the only solution is you have to do it. You have to kiss the girl. You have to push through those emotions. You have to go through it. You can't go around it. And so, look, is there any tips? Yeah, I know we jumped on a few of these tips as far as like talking our way around drop shipping and minimum orders. Is there any little, I hate to call them hacks, but is there any hacks that you do? Look, I'll give you one off the gates. I know, what did you call them? A middle management tool, I think is what you called them earlier. There is a middle management tool on the other end. Okay. So think back, maybe you're still at a job right now, but think back to your job. Were you happy every day? No. Yeah. When were you happy? Friday afternoons, right? You had you threw in the towel. You were in victory formation. If you're a football fan, or you win. Look, Friday afternoon, all you can think about is the weekend. That is my favorite time to call suppliers. I will call them from Friday noon until Friday 4 p.m. And I think you'll be shocked at how much people, they really don't give a shit. They'll call and they don't even fight you on Friday afternoons. They're just like, yeah, what's your email? Let's get this knocked out. Who cares anymore? And it seems to work really, really well for me. Whereas Mondays are the absolute worst day for me calling suppliers, because people are there. They hate their life. They're back at this job again. There's 47 emails in their inbox or Slack or whatever they're doing. I'd never, ever call on Mondays.
Yeah. If you're in Australia, Friday morning, because by midday, everyone's at the pub drinking.
Is that a thing for real? People just cut out early and go drink?
Look, it's not uncommon. A lot of my life. Not so much these days because I barely drink anymore. But when I was working a job, and one of the only escapes from that was going to the pub with your workmates and drinking, yeah, sure. Used to do that a lot.
I love that tip. For me, like that, I honestly, I try to only make calls on Fridays because it seems so powerful. Sometimes Thursdays as well, but usually like Fridays, people are just in that mood of like, I just want to be out of here. And so they're happy to just not confront you, not run into another problem that they have to solve before they leave work for the week. They're just like, yep, sounds great. What's your email? And they send it over right away. And come back Monday. Oftentimes they'll come back Monday and I'll have my stuff sent back over, and I will get some emails of like, who are you again? When did we talk? And they don't even honestly remember, but at that point you've already gotten the yes, you've already gotten the paperwork filled out, and it's a no-brainer. Do you have any like little tips or tricks or hacks?
Yeah, one little tip I'll give is sometimes we talked a little bit about gatekeepers. So sometimes on some businesses you'll call up the phone number that you can find on the website or something like that, and you'll get the receptionist or the person in that business who just answers all of the phone calls and is that sort of first line for that business. And they'll be like, you'll probably introduce yourself and say what you're calling for, and they'll be like, and maybe they say, oh, you need to speak to this guy, but he's not around right now. And it feels like every time you call, you get the same response from that person, right? Oh yeah, they're never there, the person you need to speak to. In that situation, what I would say is whenever you get that sort of gatekeeper person, at the very least you want to get out of them is who's the decision maker. Like, see if you can get that person's name, right? Because once you get that person's name, you can actually research them online and find their direct contact details. So oftentimes you'll find their direct phone number in somewhere like Google if they're like more of a public figure and it's been listed somewhere online before. But you can also use a tool like hunter.io or Meet Edgar. So these are little online tools where you can put a company's name into them, and that it will give you a list of all of the email addresses and phone numbers for that company, like internal ones and personal emails that exist for that company on their domain, right? So oftentimes using those, you'll get the contact details for the exact person. If you know their name, you'll see like their name at whatever the business is, if you want their email, for example, and often there'll be a phone number attached with that. So you can contact them directly if you're having a lot of trouble with that gatekeeper type person. Like if you just can't break through that barrier and get that person's direct, because often they'll tell you their name, but they won't give you their contact details, right? So that's a little trick. There are tools that can help you to find people's actual contact details, or you can hit up LinkedIn as well. That's another good way to, find a business professional's, direct contact details, should I say.
So this happened to me 2 weeks ago with one of the brands I've been talking to you about, actually, John. Called. I always start out with the same exact thing. Hey, my name is Ben. I'm the CEO of blankcompany.com. And I'm wondering who I can speak to about becoming a retailer for your products. That's my first line on every single call I make. And they reached out, or they immediately were like, yeah, I'm sorry, we're not taking any retailers. And I was like, oh, that's great. Well, we're not looking to get started quite just yet, but we'd like to get started in the future, right? Burn their first objection. And she's like, well, you're going to want to talk to, I don't even remember the name, Jim. And Jim's not here right now. And I was like, okay, great. How can I get a hold of Jim, right? And she was like, well, he's not here right now. You could leave a voicemail. I never leave voicemails ever. I don't like to leave voicemails. I want to talk to somebody. Yep. And she was like, okay, here's his email address. And then she's like, send him an email, right? So I sent an email, didn't get a response, called back a few days later, and she gave me the same exact runaround as if she didn't know who I was. I went all around it again, and then she was like, you know what? Jim's actually here right now, after I busted all of her objections, told her that I sent an email. I got Jim. Jim immediately sends me through the same hoop. We're not taking retailers right now. I'm not, and he apparently is the decision maker. Clearly, he's like, I'm not taking retailers right now. I'm not looking for anybody else to sell our stuff. I don't drop ship. He gave me the full runaround too, and eventually I got through him. And I just said, that's great. I'll shoot you another email. Thanks for your time. And I was planning on calling him back again. I sent an email and I was just like, hey, thanks so much for your time. And I reiterated my points, let him know I had some experience. Here's some other websites we've built. I think that, this one's going to be an awesome website, going to be our best yet, I think is the line I used. And sure enough, he sent me back a dealer application the next day. And so like, there's so many hurdles that you have to jump out, that like I think they just really want to know that you're a real person. And interesting how they all go. It's been so long since I've done this that revisiting this over the last couple of weeks has been interesting to me to hear the new excuses. There's a lot of new COVID excuses. There's a lot of new we definitely don't drop ship or minimum order. There's been a lot more pushback than I received whatever it was 3 years ago, the last time I actually did this.
Yep.
Any other tips, tricks from you, John? I can see you you're typing emails. You got to hop on another call here.
Look, there's probably lots, and I think we'll come back to this at some point. No doubt, this is going to be a topic that a lot of people have questions about, I think.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we kill it and find some questions, and we'll come back and we'll answer all the old ones. If you guys have questions, like just put them in Patreon, respond to this post, or send us a message, or even better, just go in the Facebook group and start putting them in there. We'll start compiling them and answer them too, because I think there's some other stuff that we wanted to get through that you should do before you even call suppliers that we didn't get to. So happy to address some of those and keep the process moving forward. And I think we told you we would have a live site for you to look at. I think maybe we'll start talking, John and I will start talking about that and figure out how to show you a site, and at least then we can actually talk through real world experiences and maybe record some of these supplier calls and show people what it's actually like in live time. Just show them when we're actually building.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And as always, guys, if you're listening in and you've got some friends, some buddies, some mastermind co-members or things like that who you think would love the show, send them on over. Give them a recommendation. Send them on over to the website, or even put them into touch with me and Benny. And let's grow our group here.
Yeah, let's find out who the super fans are too. If you're a super fan ninja and you're from one of those other communities we've been talking about, go post in one of their in their little groups or in their forums for us. We would appreciate that very much. Maybe we can make your fee free from here on out if you were willing to be a ninja for us. But we appreciate all of you. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for all the feedback. Drop your questions in the group, and we'll get to them next week, hopefully.
Awesome. See ya.
Bye. Boom. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. We got more feedback on that episode than any other Patreon we did. So many gold nuggets in there. If calling suppliers is a hiccup for you, hopefully this series of 3 podcasts got you through that and kiss the girl. It's time to take the step forward and actually call those suppliers and utilize some of the tips you learned in the podcast over the last 3 weeks. Again, this came from our Patreon episode. We'd love to have you over there. Patreon.com/Dropship Podcast. All old episodes are absolutely free, and all new episodes are just $5. Again, it's Patreon, patreon.com/Dropship Podcast. We'd love to have you over there, and we'll see you back again here next week with another Tactical Tuesday episode. Thanks for listening to the Dropship Podcast. You can find all the show notes for this episode at dropshippodcast.com. And if you're ready to take the next step in your dropshipping journey, we invite you to join us inside Dropship Breakthrough, where John and I will walk you through step by step in starting your own high-ticket dropshipping e-commerce business. But that's not all. Dropship Breakthrough will also teach you everything you'll need to know to grow your business and take it to the next level. So head over to dropshipbreakthrough.com and sign up for our free training that will help you take the first steps towards building and growing your own profitable high-ticket dropshipping business.